Hey, you. It's me again. I was just sitting here in my room thinking about you. So I decided to make another video. I had a fairly easy day at work. Um, but then again, the entire ship is having a fairly easy day at work because the ship is not actually working right now. Hopefully, something comes up soon before they lay anybody off. So we can hope. We had traded a few messages last night, so that was a pleasant surprise. Um, I did have to roll my eyes a bit at one one of your questions. Uh, what was it? You said, "But why would I take photos?" And I'm here to tell you that if the question ever arises in your mind, would Patrick want to see this picture? Should I share this picture of me with Patrick? The answer, under all circumstances, is a resounding yes. And if the question is something like, oh man, this picture is boring, uh, Patrick probably wouldn't want to see it, or I don't like this picture, I don't like how I look, Patrick would probably not be interested in it. The answer to those kind of questions will, in all circumstances, be no. So, feel free. I think about what you said in the last video you sent me. You got to stay moisturized. Although this appears to be becoming empty. Your your last video, you mentioned several times that you wanted to know more about me now, and I think I mentioned it's probably going to be a little difficult, but I'll, I'll try not to say too many positive things about myself along with too many negative things. So take that for what it's worth. I will be self-censoring. But I guess we can start with when I was born. I was born about 3:30 in the morning on a very, very cold, for Houston, Texas, a very cold December 30th, 1972. Funny thing about that is, as I was growing up, I would always ask my dad what year I was born, and he would always just round it up to 1973. So I think I was close to 9 or 10 years old before I realized um, exactly how old I was. I always thought I was 1 year younger up until that point. But I was born to a man. His name is Roland Neal Taylor. And my mother's name was Patricia Kathleen O'Brien. They were married. My father had one son before me that was actually one of a set of twins, but one of the twins did not survive, and and my mother, she had two children before me, a girl named Shelley and a boy named Shannon. Now, I spent some time with these up until about the age of 6 months, and they called me Mr. P for obvious reasons, and they were interesting. Shannon was interesting, and Shelley was interesting, but I didn't remember anything about them. In fact, I couldn't even tell you what their names were until about 5 years ago. Um, the marriage between my dad and my mom did not last, and they were separated before I turned one, actually. Um, I don't know much about it. I do remember finding a book. It was a book of my birth. It was probably given at a baby shower to my mother, and all the pages were blank. And I remember asking my dad about it, and he all he had to say was it was a rough time. So evidently there was trouble, and so they were they were divorced fairly quickly. Since my mother already had two children, I naturally went with my father. So that's how I ended up being raised by my dad. After after the divorce, I was alone with my dad, and he had some health problems. I think it was hepatitis maybe, and he was in the hospital for a little while. And I was taken care of by my aunt, by his sister, and so those are the photos that I have from when I was really young. Uh, and Before the age of 2, my dad had met another lady and married her. She was she was a real piece of work. She was absolutely atrocious, and she had a daughter who was about 2 years my senior. And the daughter didn't treat me very good either, but she was probably just following the lead of her mother. And I think the reason why the mother was not very nice to me is because my dad wasn't very nice to her. Because my dad was the baby of the family, of his family, and he was probably a little bit of a surprise. I think he was 10 years younger than his next oldest sibling. And he was born in 41. And to give you an idea of some of these age ranges, he was born in 41, and in 41 is when one of his brothers, my uncle, left to go fight in World War II in the Pacific. So there was a pretty big age gap, and so my dad, being the baby of the family, he probably was coddled a bit more than other people, and he ended up being slightly immature, if I can say that. Yeah, immature. He did his best, but sometimes his best wasn't good enough, if you will. But he tried. He was married 5 times. I think he was married that many times because he had a problem with putting hands on women. Now, I never personally witnessed this. In fact, by his 5th marriage, he had quit doing that. I think he made a deal with himself that it wasn't a good idea. So, so yeah, he was married right out of high school. That one didn't last. The only lasting part of that marriage was a huge burn scar on his hand. He told me the story one time. He had set his hand down on an ironing board, and he slapped his wife with his other hand, and she just reached over with the hot iron and just set it right on the back of his hand. So, needless to say, that marriage didn't last. And his second marriage, which he had the twins with that lady, that one didn't last either. I think several years, not much more than that. And then there was my mother, and then that leads to the first stepmother I had. And yeah, that takes me up to about age 8. Up until there, it was normal. I was a fairly normal kid. I did have some behavioral problems, but you know, it wasn't too big of a deal, and I can't really think of anything big that happened during that time. I do remember one thing that was a little bit of foreshadowing. When I was 5, my father got a kidney stone, and this was back before they could use ultrasonics to get rid of it. He ended up losing a kidney. So, so yeah, from the age 5 on, he was short one kidney, and that will come into play later in this story. We lived in Houston and or surrounding cities this whole time. My dad worked at the same place the whole time that I was alive. And yeah, I went to a few different schools because we would move every once in a while, depending on where my first stepmother was working at the time. But it was all in Houston, and yeah, at the time, every Sunday, my dad would get the Sunday newspaper, and he would work on the crossword while I read the comics, and he would always go and get donuts. And my favorite was chocolate filled donuts from a company called Shipley's, which is still around actually. Anytime I am in Houston or anywhere in Texas for that matter, I I make sure I get a chocolate filled donut or two. And I'm gonna stop the story of my childhood right there, and I will continue on with that later. Uh, Another thing about me, a fun fact about me, is that I like to argue. Um, but not because I'm argumentative. In fact, I like to argue, but I don't particularly I like to win the argument. Whether I win the argument doesn't matter to me. In fact, a lot of times I will even argue against what I personally believe, play the devil's advocate, so to speak. And the reason is this: if I win an argument, hey, great, yeah, I won an argument. You know, I convinced somebody that I was right. But what's even better for me is if I lose the argument, because that means that the person has changed my outlook on something. I have learned something. I have been able to, put myself in somebody else's shoes to empathize more, and you just tend to learn more when you talk to somebody and they convince you of a different viewpoint. So that's it. That's all I have to go on today. I'll try to make multiple little small ones because it's hard to upload these videos. And yeah, I hope you enjoy them. Um, if you ever get tired of hearing them, just let me know and I will stop making them. But I don't think you will. So, yeah. Feel free to share anything about your life that you want to share with me. And I will always want to hear about it, learn about you. Because sometimes I sit around and think about how little I do know about you. I do know some about you, and what I do know about you, I am absolutely enthralled with. But I could always learn more, and I want to learn more, want to know more. Just like you said you wanted to know more and learn more about me. Sometimes I don't always know the right questions to ask, what you're comfortable talking about over video or a phone call or a video call or whatever happens in the future as far as communication lines go between us. But yeah, knock yourself out. I am going to follow up with my nightly facial moisturizing regimen, and it is 9 a.m. here, so I will probably be asleep within the hour, which will I normally go to sleep out here around 10 a.m., which is about 3 a.m. for you. So I hope you're already asleep. I hope you're sleeping well. If you're dreaming, I hope they're good dreams. You sound like you had a good day at school yesterday, so I hope you have a good day at school today. Yeah. Today will be your Friday, so have a great day. And if something happens and I can't talk to you or make a video tomorrow, have a great weekend. And just know that I'll be thinking about you in inordinate amount of time. between now and the next time we get a chance to either trade messages or talk. Goodbye for now.